What's going on, ladies and gents? It's Richard Kuo. This week I want to talk about how do we stop beating ourselves up. Beating ourselves up is a very common thing we as human beings like to do. It's very natural, but how do we stop doing that? I thought about this a lot, and I also had some conversations with some people, and I kind of broke it down into 3 steps that we could do to stop beating ourselves up. Number 1 is to just accept ourselves as human beings. Number 2 is to know that you're enough. And number 3 is to disassociate the flaws that you have with your self-esteem or the value that you think you are. First one is accept yourself. So as human beings, we're just human beings. So the first part is just accepting, knowing that you're a human being, knowing that you make mistakes, knowing that every single person makes mistakes. I think oftentimes we like to compare ourselves with other people, either our classmates, peers, coworkers, or sometimes we look up to these role models or public figures that we wish we could be like because they seem so perfect. Maybe they have a perfect body, maybe they're so positive and all of that. The truth is that everyone, as being human, we all have our own flaws. Our parents do, our role models do, our classmates do, that straight A student does. Everyone has their own flaws. So the first part is just accepting who you are. Just be okay with the flaws that you have. I know it can be hard sometimes, but just accept that you have flaws. Accept that you're human. Accept that maybe you're not so pretty. Maybe that you're not so smart. Maybe that you're not so, street smart or whatever it is. Just accept that you are who you are and it's okay. This leads into point number 2. Point number 2 is understand that you are enough. I think a lot of times we feel that we're inadequate. We wish we could have these certain attributes that other people have. I grew up with an older brother who to me seemed perfect, and to me that hurt, and it made me feel like I was never enough. So step number 2 is know that you're enough. Know that whatever flaws you have is okay. It's just part of being human. And there's certain aspects of you that maybe you do know, and maybe some parts you don't know, that make you pretty special. That's kind of part of this journey that we're on about discovering ourselves. And unfortunately, one thing about kind of this self-esteem battle that we all have, or many of us have, is that when we're so caught up on like all our flaws and like, I hate this part about me. I don't like this part about me. I don't like that I'm not smart enough. I don't like that I'm not very talented at doing this. Why can't I be a better musician? Why can't I be a better artist? Why can't I do this? We're so caught up in that we can't see the talent, the skills, the gifts we've been given because we're so busy consumed by the negativity. So know that you're enough. And just know that by being a human, by being created and put into this earth, know that you're good enough, that you have special abilities. This is a tough one. It's not always easy to do, but just work with me on this one. And sometimes it'll click and sometimes it just won't, and we just gotta trust this. Just trust that, okay, maybe just open yourself up to the possibility that maybe you are enough. And that's all I could ask for you. It's a journey. Sometimes knowing that we're enough doesn't come right away. It takes time. Sometimes I don't feel enough too. It just depends on the moments. So that's where I stand right now. And lastly, we have point number 3, which is disassociate your flaws from your self-worth or the value that you perceive yourself to be. I believe for me, this is one of the most important steps of the 3 because it kind of ties everything together. I think oftentimes we tie in our self-worth with the flaws that we have, like, oh, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. And on my journey, I've kind of discovered that our self-worth is really defined by ourselves. It's really defined by, we just choose whatever we want our self-worth to be. It doesn't have to be, oh, because I'm not smart, that I'm worthless. I'm not pretty, therefore I'm worthless. It doesn't have to be like that. This is part of the whole, just again, knowing that you're good enough, and also just accepting who you are as a person, because once we do those, we can start to bring out the gifts that we have within ourselves. So that's why I believe it's important to disassociate our flaws with our self-worth, because once we disassociate our flaws with our self-worth, then we just realize we just create our own self-worth. We can choose to impact people in certain ways much bigger than just focusing on the flaws that we have. Instead of focusing on the flaws we have, we could focus on the strengths that we have and really develop those. And just going back, sometimes when we're so absorbed into the flaws that we have, it clouds our ability to see all the gifts that we have. One thing that took me a really long time to figure out myself was that I had gifts. You know, I had all these magical powers that no one else had, but I couldn't see any of my gifts because I was so busy hanging out in the negative, hanging out in the you know, I'm stupid, I'm not good enough. So again, how do we stop beating ourselves up? I'm just going to give a quick recap. Number one is just accept yourself. Know that you're a human being. Know that everyone has flaws, and it's okay to have flaws. It's a part of being human. Just accept it as it is. Number two is know that you're enough. If you haven't accepted yourself enough, just know that you're enough. Know that by being human, just being a human being, that you are enough. And it's okay to have flaws, and that nobody is a loser. You know, you got strengths, you got weaknesses, and that's just something everyone has. Same thing as myself. Number three, final thing, is disassociate your flaws from your self-worth / your own personal value that you perceive. So just because you have flaws, it doesn't mean that affects your self-worth. It can if you let it, but don't let it. Choose your self-worth to just be whatever value you choose to provide going forward. Last thing I want to mention as a quick reminder is that when it comes to our self-worth, it's something that we get to create from today going forward. Our past doesn't necessarily define what our self-worth is unless we let it define what it is. So if you want to develop your self-worth, let's say your self-worth is right here, you know, and you want to move it up. That is done by just putting in the work, one step at a time. And that is why I want to talk about how to not beat yourself up first. Because in order for us to move forward, the first thing is we got to stop putting ourselves down. We got to stop decreasing our value. We got to slowly raise it one step at a time. All right, so that's what I have for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this video was helpful, please be sure to share it and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, share it there, like it, and just share the love. And again, these are just my perspectives of my life, and I'm always trying to grow and develop. So if you have any comments, questions, drop them down below, and looking forward to hanging out with you more and interacting. And catch me on Facebook, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every single day. Love you all. Take care. Peace.